Welcome to this webinar on 7.5 ways to weird people out when you're networking. And, it's just a bit of a funky title really, but it's about some of the ways in which we create the wrong impression, that we actually sabotage the results we could be getting when we go out and we meet people. And network is a fantastic way of building your business. Everybody knows that people buy from people they know. So networking is an incredibly valuable way to build your business, to get referrals, providing we do it right. And I've been networking now for 10 years. I started my first business 10 years ago, and I made most of these mistakes I'm going to talk you through today, and I can kind of step back now and laugh at them, but that at the time they were excruciatingly painful for me. So so this is what this is about, is to kind of see if you can recognize yourself even slightly in any of these things, and to look at different ways of approaching networking so that you're not weirding people out, and also 3 top tips of how to get better results. And a little bit, I'll tell you a little bit about why this is important to me and kind of where it came from. So today's really about you creating a group of people who love what you do, who celebrate what you do, and they don't need to have been clients. Lots of us find it's easy to get a referral from a delighted client because they've worked with you and they get what it is you do. But that can be a slow way to grow your business. So it's much more useful if you can create this sort of like raving fans, as I can't remember who the guy who wrote the book is, raving fans. If you can get people who love what it is you do without having had to work with you. So that's what networking can do if we get it right. And that's what I'm after for all of you, because I'm sure you've got a great business and I'm sure you've got great potential to have even more impact on this world if only more people knew about you and you got more clients through your door. So that's what this webinar is really about. And it comes from the fact, this was my very first business card 10 years ago, and it was printed on cheap paper by a guy down the road. And I thought that was the first thing I needed to do to get a business, even though I printed this not really knowing what I was doing or what my business was about or who my clients were or anything. I just picked a name almost out of the hat. I had some business cards printed and started networking because that's what I thought I had to do. I just went out and told people that I was a trainer, and I thought people would just fall over themselves backwards to come and work with me. And those cards were quite cheap, but these ones, I had them redesigned. They pretty much have steel training on silver on one side and my name at the time, which is Emma Westwood, on the other side, and a phone number. Vastly expensive. In fact, I wrote a blog about it, the most expensive compost ever, because they cost me something like £800 because I bought 1,500 of them and threw about 1,400 of them away again. And I had no business from networking. I spent 10 years being totally invisible. I kept networking despite the fact it wasn't working for me, which is kind of odd, and it's the sheer definition of insanity is to do something that isn't getting you the right results. But I didn't know what I was doing wrong, and other people were getting results, and it was kind of me ticking a box saying, I've done marketing, ping, went to a networking event this week or this month. So 10 painful years, and I learned a lot of things. And these 7.5 ways of weirding people out, I've done most of these things. There's one of them I haven't done, but I've seen them or either done them myself. So I don't want this for you because it's soul destroying. It can be really tricky. It got so bad that I actually took a job. Somebody came along and offered me a monthly wage, and I went, you know what? I'm kind of sick of networking, and I struggled to believe in myself enough to keep going. So over those 10 years, I spent hundreds of hours eating lunches, making business small talk. I spent thousands of pounds on events, on travel, on petrol, on business cards and brochures. And in 10 years, I got one client at a value of £250 directly from networking. One client. And it was maybe the 3rd or 4th event, and I went, yay, got it sussed. Never again. So, you look at that investment and it's ridiculous. I'd have been better off financially. My business would have been more profitable if I just hadn't gone. if I just hadn't gone, if I hadn't printed those cards, if I hadn't gone. But since I've been really working on this and exploring it and learning about it and meeting more people who teach me about networking, kind of getting a whole new mindset around it, in the last 4 months I've spent at most 20 hours networking, probably a lot, and that less, and that includes the travel to and from. I've spent a small amount of money and I've had 10 clients. Nearly all my clients now are not from past clients or word of mouth or, you know, or referrals from other clients. They're people I meet. They're people I meet and I get work directly from them. So I know this is working for me now, and there are certain things that, you know, mistakes I've made, and that's what this is about. And it's kind of light-hearted because it's just networking, and I know it's business it's a serious thing, is earning money, but business doesn't have to be serious. So this is kind of a bit of fun. Hopefully you'll recognize some things. But this guy absolutely blew my mind. And I heard him talk in October last year at the Professional Speakers Association convention in London, and his name is Matt Crabtree. And he totally changed the way I think about networking. Because I've always had this idea is that the point of going networking is to meet as many people as possible. So your business card is in as many people's desks as possible, even though that makes no real sense. It's kind of like this mindset of traditional marketing is like TV advertising. The more people who know about you, the better. Well, he totally blew that out of the water because he talked about the fact that he has a bespoke network. So instead of having just a general network, he has nourished and spends a lot of time investing in the relationships with a small number of people, and his bespoke network is about 7 people. That's it. And that doesn't sound very big, and it's like, well, surely you need hundreds of people in your network. Well, he doesn't. Matt Crabtree is a speaker, and he has just 7 people in his network, and he can directly show that those 7 people bring in 95% of his business. I was absolutely gobsmacked when I heard that. I just thought, no way. And he talked a lot in this fantastic talk about how he nurtures those relationships and looks after them. Now, he's not small fry either. His business is worth £2 million a year. Now, imagine if you had 7 people in your network who made your business that successful. That would be amazing. But it's not going to happen if we're weirding people out. It's not going to happen if we're aiming for the wrong goal. It's not going to happen if we're saying the wrong things when we're networking. So it is possible to do it, and Matt clearly has has a lot to teach us. But these are some of the things that get in the way, and these are ways in which perhaps we make people uncomfortable, and perhaps we give off the wrong vibes. So this is a bit of fun. I hope you'll take it as that. 7.5 ways to weird people out when you're networking, because it does. These things weird people out. And the first one, it's mistake number 1/2. And 7.5 ways always seem, but this is like, it's so small and so almost invisible, it doesn't even warrant a full number. So this is the invisible ninja. And these are people who you don't even notice at an event. And it's kind of like you go home and you go through the cards you've got and you go, I don't remember meeting someone called that. And you scan through your brain for all the sort of faces and the people you talk to, and you go, I wonder how that card got in there. I don't remember meeting them at all. And these are people who love to blend in, who almost don't want to be there and are doing it to tick off in the box, but actually aren't really present in a way that has an impact on anyone. So some of the symptoms, and I do this when I'm nervous, I do this a lot. I go to the toilet like 3 times an hour or something because I just want to get away from the group. It's like I really don't want to be there, but I pretend I'm there. So people who go to the toilet, if you find yourself going to the toilet a lot, then it may be that you're tending towards being a ninja in this situation. Similar thing, always constantly going to help yourself to food or tea and coffee and things like that. It's almost like not wanting to be present here, so I'm kind of bucking out, hogging the wall. This is a kind of party wallflower effect. People who are constantly looking at their phone, looking for a distraction, looking for ways to take them out of the environment that they're in. The people who only ever listen. They don't introduce themselves. They just stand on the edge of a group, almost behind someone else, and listen, and somehow manage to slip their business card into your pocket or handbag or collection somehow. And will quite happily just pass their card across wordlessly to you. So you never actually even almost look at the face. You never really notice that they're there. And I've done this. I've been that uncomfortable. It's been those times that I've been sat in my car thinking, why am I going networking? I hate networking. And I know I've had those moments where I've thought I'd rather just go home. And then because I've got all this stuff going around in my head and these thoughts and beliefs, I spend the time doing this. I'm in the toilet for 20 minutes at a time because I don't want to have to break into a group. So if this is where you're at, and this, this it may be, but you might recognize some of these symptoms, there are a couple of things you can do to kind of force yourself into being there. Either be there or don't be there. And if you're there, be present. So some of the things you can do is go to the toilet before you turn up, or the minute you turn up, and then don't go again. Unless you've got some sort of infection or something that means you need to go, or you're pregnant or anything like that. Go once, in and out. Stick to one drink. There's no need to have endless teas and coffees unless you find your perfect client just by the tea and coffee and you think, I'm going to sidle over. Start a conversation whilst they're at tea and coffee. Leave your phone alone. If you want to be present, if you want to give people respect, if you want to build relationships, you should not be trying to have a relationship with your phone at the same time as you're in that room. So leave your phone alone. Leave it in the car, leave it in your handbag, leave it at home. I know, leave your phone at home. Instead of listening, ask questions. This is a very gentle way of starting to talk to people. You don't necessarily talk about yourself, but you ask questions. And ask questions that really uplift people. What's the best result you've had in your business? What do you love about your business? Why did you start your business? Tap into people's passion. One of the most interesting questions that people ask a lot, which is weird because I don't think you'll ever get an honest answer, is, how's business going? The economy's difficult. How's business going? Now, there are very few people who are going to be honest enough to go, it's shocking. I didn't get any work in last month. I don't know how I'm going to pay my mortgage. And that's kind of depressing. And if it's going great, then most people are so busy they're not at networking events. So it's kind of like a weird question to ask and sets yourself up for all sorts of things. So ask questions, but particularly questions that uplift people. What have you done this week? It doesn't even have to be about business. I'm looking for a really good restaurant. Where could you recommend? Something like that even. And then when you go networking, just aim to meet a couple of people. You might say, I'm going to talk to 5 people, and by the end of them, I'm going to work out whether I want to get to know any of those people better. Set yourself a really simple goal. Because it's not about, I'm going to meet 1 billion people and everybody's going to bow down before me and realize I'm the new god of presentations. That's not what you want to set yourself up for. It's just like, I'm looking to meet one person who I think could be like a mentor or a friend or somebody that I want to get to know better. Set yourself something really simple. Ask lots of questions and just be present. And if you have to, don't go. But set yourself okay, I'm going to go this week and then this is what I'm going to do. So mistake number 1, this is the first full mistake, is the wing walker. And I expect to have met people like this. This is not my particular style, but I'm much more of the ninja. These people kind of flash in like a whirlwind, so they're more likely to turn up late. They arrive kind of flustered, as if, and out of breath, bizarrely enough, as if, they've just got off a plane. They're the sort of people who go, when you say, well, we're going to take our tables and then we're going to do 60 seconds, they'll go, really? I wasn't expecting this. I was like, how do you sign up for a networking event without finding out what's going on? Who's going to be there? Why would you turn up without knowing what's going to go on? So even if you arrive late and flustered to an event you've never been for, one of the first questions you need to ask is, this is my first event, can you tell me what's going on? Because the last thing you want to do is that you put on the spot and you don't know how to answer the question, or what, I have to introduce myself? Oh, nobody told me. It's a networking event. One of the things you will expect to be asked when you're networking is, what do you do? If you don't have an answer for that, then it makes you look kind of unprepared. And actually, one of the things with this is it makes your whole company look slapdash, because however you are at a networking event is how people believe your business is going to be. So if you turn up kind of late and flustered and you don't have the right things and you've still got your gym kit in, or your skirt is tucked in your pants or anything, that's the impression people have of your business. So is that the impression you want to give? This whole leaving before it's, I'm really busy, I've got a meeting, I've got to go, right in the middle of like somebody talking. It makes you look slightly disorganized. If you're going to be there, try and be there the entire time. And also this is the flash in the pan, as in they'll go to every event once, but you'll never see them again. Now, networking is about forming relationships. It's not about, giving out a billion business cards to everyone in your region and then sitting back and waiting for the phone to ring. That doesn't really work. And this is a classic one. They don't even have a business card. What? Networking event without business cards. Now, a lot of people say, well, I'm just having them reprinted or something. Now, it doesn't have to be the perfect business card. But if you're going to an event, you at least need to print out on some pieces of card your name and an email address or a telephone number to give to people. Because, you've got some control because you take other people's business cards, but if you haven't got business cards of your own, you have to follow up somehow. You have to then send emails to all the people you met saying, sorry I didn't have business cards with me, these are my contact details in case you'd like to get in touch. Something like that. But no business cards on you. What's going on? So, simple cures to this is planning. It's planning. This is not just this is not like popping into somebody's house for coffee. This is part of your business, part of your marketing, part of your branding. Everything you do, you are being assessed on, whether you know it or not. So arriving on time, if not early. The one thing about arriving early is you're kind of in control of the room. You're not breaking into groups because people have to come and talk to you because you're the first people there. Arriving flustered. Breathe. There'll be a time between getting out of your car and going into the room where you can breathe. You want to be calm and collected and composed because that's what people want out of business people. Do your homework. If you've never been to an event, find someone who has, find the organiser and just ask them to talk you through it or look at the website. It's a bit of research. Plan your diary so that you've got time to attend the entire event. If you have to leave halfway through lunch before you get to the bit where everyone does their 60 seconds, you've got to ask, is that really worth attending? Does that give the right impression about your business? And depending on how often these groups meet, you might need to attend 4, 5, 6 or more of these before you know whether this is the right group for you, because a lot of relationships aren't formed overnight. They're not formed in one 60-second thing. We don't get the right impression from you from that. And take business cards or something that you can give people. So this mistake number 2, my personal bugbear, is the croupier. Guess what the croupier does? Deals cards. These are the sort of people who are there, break into a group of 6 people, deal a card like it's like winner plays all or something like that, and then moves on. So have my card, have my card, have my card, have my card. Next group, have my card, have my, and it's like, and you'll know if you're having to order cards all the time. 500 business cards, unless you're networking like mad or you go to massive events where everybody gets a copy, should last some time. If you're ordering cards every month, if you have set yourself a target to give out a number of cards, I'd have to ask you, why are you setting a target to giving out cards? Because what happens to most cards? They languish in people's desks and then they're put in the bin sometime later. Cards are not necessarily your strongest marketing strategy. Just having cards out there, just painting your name on the side of your card does not necessarily bring business in. And a similar thing to this, which is on social media, is chasing likes and followers, competing on how many followers you've got. How many people like your Facebook page? How many connections you've got on LinkedIn? Connections are not just connections. I've got hundreds of phone numbers in my phone. Could I phone all of them up? And could they tell me what I did about my business? No. Could I ask them for advice? So another symptom is you spend more time networking than you do working. If you're not careful, networking turns into not working. And networking is not the be-all or an end-all. And there's an iPhone app where you take a picture of a business card and it converts it into like a contact on your phone, and it's called Card Munch. If you think Card Munch is the best thing since sliced bread, maybe you're turning into a bit of a croupier where you're collecting. So here's an idea. Only give a card when you're asked. Just because you're at a table of 6 people and everyone's doing their 60 seconds doesn't mean that everyone needs to take your card. Some of those people may be totally irrelevant to your business. Some of them might already have a copy. One of the things you don't want to do is distract everyone by giving out your card while you've got your 60 seconds. Those 60 seconds are your precious time. So give them beforehand or only give them when you're asked. Instead of having goals about giving out cards, have goals about creating this bespoke network. Just imagine a network of 7 people, a bespoke network that suits you and your business. So have goals to meet people and get to know them instead of chasing likes. And this is critical. Spend more time building a depth of relationship. It's better to have a few deep relationships like Matt's bespoke network of 7 than it is to have a million shallow relationships, because the depth of the relationship is really important when it comes to building your business and getting clients and referrals. Look for ways of creating joint ventures with people. Joint ventures are incredibly powerful. So that if you're starting to think more about relationships, about joint ventures, about following up, then automatically you kind of negate this whole idea that it's all about giving out your cards to as many people as possible. Mistake number 3, the D-list celeb. And you occasionally see these. They're actually quite rare in my experience. I've probably only met one a year maybe when I've been networking. But I do remember, and this wasn't a business networking event, but I remember going to a party quite some years ago, and there was a guy there who started every conversation with, "Do you remember such and such a song?" And it was a kind of one-hit wonder in the 1980s, I think. And we say, "Oh yes," he said, "I was on that song." And everyone did the polite, "Really? Wow, that's amazing." And as soon as the conversation turned into anything that wasn't about him and his song, that was 20 years ago, he'd move on to another group and start again. I was kind of like, well, what about the rest of us? And I did hear a man stand up and talk about his business at a networking event, and he said, "We only work with businesses with at least £10 million a year turnover." And I thought, and that's useful information, but it was all a little bit too me. So you'll recognise these people because nearly every word is me in my sentence, and they drop names, and I've heard people do the name dropping stuff. They'll talk more than they listen, and even if you're talking about yourself, they'll somehow manage to butt in and change it about, "Oh, well, I remember doing such and such." So they interrupt, they boast, they talk about their clients, how much money they earn, this sort of stuff, which is actually not that comfortable to listen to when somebody's in this mode. They might say, "Oh, did you see my article in the local paper?" Or if they're northern, "Do you see my article?" And what will happen is they'll talk to a group until they've kind of run out of steam and told them everything they want you to know about you, and then they'll flit to another group. When you're networking, the most important thing is to build relationships. So you're talking about you. What do you need? What do you like? What does your business do? You talk to people. One of the best things you can do is encourage people to open up about themselves. Lots of people are going to be nervous when they're networking, so the more you can talk about them and not about yourself, the better. So listen more than you talk. One of the things you can do is to build connections, is to go, "Oh, there's a great networking group that would be good for you," or "I read this article in the paper that would be perfect, which is just about you," or even start thinking of people who might want them, or drilling down, asking them questions to help you identify who might most want them. So give people your time, your advice, and your experience, and this is a giver's gain thing about networking. If you create connections for people, if you go, "Oh, I've thought of someone brilliant for you," and the more I talk about my clients, and I get to know my clients very well, the more I talk about them with other people, and I find links that I didn't even know were there. So give people this. And then if you're talking to a small group, and this is not a particular networking group, but if you're talking to 3 or 4 people, stick with it and get to know those 3 or 4 people rather than trying to get to know everyone in the room. So mistake number 4, the waffler. These are the sort of people when you ask them, "Oh, what do you do?" start with "In 1972 we opened our first shop." And they just don't know where to start and finish. Now, here's a question for you. I'm going to put a poll in. I haven't used a poll before, so we'll see how this poll works. So hopefully you're viewing a poll in progress, and the poll question is, would you refer business to someone who uses notes? when they're networking. So someone who in their 60 seconds reads off what it is that their business is about. So a couple of people have voted. Anyone else going to vote? So we've got 50% have voted, 63%, there's a couple more people. Anyone else going to vote? So it may be that you can't, and that's fine. So we've got a 50-50 split here. So out of the poll, 50% of people would refer business to someone who used notes and 50% wouldn't. Now, if people who use notes knew that already 50% of the people in the room might not refer business to them because they're using notes when they're networking. I mean, for me, using notes kind of undermines your the confidence that I might have in you. This is your business. You're in this business. I worry about whether, if you can't speak for 60 seconds about your business without using notes, how much confidence are you exuding confidence in your business? Now, if that's the only connection I have with you, for me, I don't think I would use notes. I would refer business to people who use notes because they're not coming across as themselves very much, and it's connection that we're creating. So it's interesting to say 50% of you would, and it may be that you've got a slightly different sort of take on this. I'd be interested to know what that is, but for me, I think if you can't talk to yourself without talk about your business without notes, then you're inhibiting my ability to really connect with you. And I like to refer business to people who I connect with. So anyway, the poll worked. Woohoo! So the sort of symptoms you've got, and this is one of my things as well. I've got a few bugbears, you can tell. I'm not the best at networking events. I get a bit like, so if you're at one of these events where you get 60 seconds or 40 seconds to speak and they kind of ask you to move on with a bell or a buzzer, these are the people who keep going once the bell has gone, and they need reminding to stop. And there's the sort of people who run out after 20 seconds and then get a second wind in the last few seconds and then can't stop. Interesting experience. People whose pitch sounds like their CV read aloud. I've been in business for 25,000 years, and we started in Little Wakefield and we moved, and it's like, oh, my goodness. If you don't know where to start, if people say, tell me about yourself, or what do you do, and you don't know where to start or when to finish, even more important, and you say something like this, it's just not long enough. I can't possibly tell you what I do in 60 seconds. Now, my experience is you can, if you're clear about what it is you do and who you help. So, things that you can do. Stop going the second the gong sounds. The minute, even if you're in mid-sentence, stop going, because this is a sign of respect. If you continue talking for longer, the person after you has no time. So you're taking from them. So just stop, or learn to do it in less. Just because you've given 60 seconds doesn't mean you have to take all of it. It can be a real act of generosity to only talk for 40 seconds. Instead of talking about what you do and your job title, talk about the problems you solve. And you can tell a story about what you do easily in 60 seconds. Doesn't have to be a lot of detail, but it's more interesting than your resume or your CV. So start with a story about your best client. One of the key things is to find your diamond. Your diamond is what makes you different, unique, and different. Different, unique, and different. Okay, quite different and quite unique. But it's about what makes you stand out. It's about what you really do and not the stuff that you might do. And once you've found your diamond, it takes less time to explain than if you're just doing the blathering on about your job title or something. So mistake number 5 is mad men and women, and it's mad men after the program. Mad men and women. These are not bonkers people. Because bonkers is fine. I quite like a bit of bonkers when I'm networking because you get a lot of the same. So, but this is mad men and women as in the sales people. So the sort of people who ask you to buy something at the event. So I've got a special offer on, or I've bought 10 of these things with me, and networking can be an opportunity to sell, but mostly it's about relationships. And buying is a very different relationship to have with people. You could be much better off building your relationships. Kind of hammer into people, you must visit my website. You must connect with me on LinkedIn. You must come to my shop. Now, I'm in two minds about this. Stalls, people who have stalls at networking events, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but that is different from the main purpose of networking, which is to build sort of relationships with people. I think they're two different things, and making them cross over can give confused messages. And you're looking at how many sales did I make from each event, and quite often the link is a little bit more tenuous than that, or longer, or bigger lead time. Whereas, say, if you're into something like, quite often get Body Shop or something like that at a networking event, so people who do sell sort of products that are skincare or something like that, what you can do is take them off and just go, I'd really like to know what you think about this. Now you may generate sales from that, but it's not here I've got a pot of this and it's £10. It's a bit of we've got this new cream, really like some feedback on you from it. Would you like to try a bit? That's really useful information. One of the things you can do at networking events, which people don't seem to do very much, is use it as a powerful way of finding out what your market needs and wants, particularly at the right sort of event. And we'll look at the different types of events. Also, you want to measure success by how many people you've added to your bespoke network. How many people are in this unique group of people who know exactly what it is you do, who love what you do, and who refer business to you. This is something that happens kind of after the networking event, but it starts at the event. And this is the procrastinator. And this particular picture is because you'd rather do the ironing than ring people up. So I know I've been there. Hands up. This is one of my biggest failures, is this. So hands up, this is my biggest by a long shot. So sort of symptoms are, I meet people at networking events and I say, that's really exciting, we should talk about our joint venture, or I think there might be some common ground here, why don't we talk, and why don't we have a meeting, and why don't we meet over coffee, and I'd like to know more about your photography or your video because I want one for my website. And then I conveniently forget. I don't forget. It's not true that I forget. I just tell myself I've forgotten. What tends to happen, and this is so me, is I worry about well, if I phone a day later, that looks a bit needy and desperate and weird. But then, so I leave it for 3 or 4 days, and then by the time I've got to 3 or 4 days, I'm now in the mindset of, oh, it's too late, or they won't remember me, or they weren't really interested in the first place. So I've got these two beliefs that are fantastic, because it means I always fall between the middle and there's never a right time to ring. And I think phoning people up is bothering them. And these are all the excuses I use, or it's I've got to tidy my desk before I ring. All this stuff that is getting in the way of me actually creating the business that I should be having. And I know this is something that I'm working on the most. So one of the things you can do, and I got this from a book by a guy called Will Kintish, and he does workshops on networking and has a book on it. And he suggests that when you want to meet with someone afterwards, that you actually say, well, I'd really like to ring you up and discuss this in detail. Is tomorrow 2 p.m. good for you? So you actually pretty much make the agreement there and then. You write it on the business card and then you diarise it when you get back. And even if you don't agree with them, agree with yourself when you are going to follow up and stick to it, because that's when it's going to happen. If you're not confident of following them up, then Will has at the back of his book, he's got a script that you can use that helps you build on that initial interest so that these phone calls aren't as scary. Or you can practice with friends, you can practice with other people who might give you feedback. But the key thing is to start doing it, because that fear of phoning people up is only going to get worse. The less you do it, the less confident you feel about it. And there are, and this is a thought, there are people who want to buy, who have the problem that you solve right now. Make it easy for them, so go to them. And I met someone, and I was looking for a bookkeeper, and it was about December time, and I met a bookkeeper at a networking event. She seemed quite personal, so I said, oh, I'm quite interested in a bookkeeper. And she went, well, I'm a bit busy right now because the year end's coming up, so ring me later. And I thought, well, that's an odd way to respond to somebody who's shown interest in your business. And I didn't ring her later because I actually wanted her to be, that's fantastic, I can't wait to work with you, I'll ring you in February. you know, because all the onus was on me. But it's interesting, you know, there are people out there who want to buy. So I was tweeting last night with a guy, and it was, lots of people worry so much about getting a no, they don't ring in the first place. But if you can cope with getting a no, why not ring? You might get a yes. And actually, yes or no is fine. I would rather get yes or no. At least then I've got clarity in whether this person may or may not become a client. So it's about being committed to getting a decision, helping people make a decision, getting clarity in my business about whether that person is genuinely interested or not, but not being attached to whether they're genuinely interested. So it's, you know, helping people to make a yes or no. We should not be answering this question for ourselves as in, oh, they're going to say no, so there's no point. Some people are going to say yes, but we're never going to know about it if we don't ring them up. And then the 7th mistake is attack of the clones, and this, I think this is particularly prevalent for people who've come from a corporate background or have a very sort of corporate style job. People who describe themselves with just in front of their job title or use just their job title. And if you've heard me before, you might have heard me tell a story about the most frustrating 10 minutes of my life talking to a graphic designer who worked for a graphic design house and did graphic design, and still, after asking hundreds of questions, or it felt like hundreds of questions, I still had no idea what a graphic designer does. To this day, I don't know. Maybe one day I'll meet a graphic designer who doesn't use the words graphic and design or design and graphics in the alternative combination to tell me what he does. Now, one of the benefits, if you work for yourself or you're an entrepreneur or you work in a small business, is you can express your brand through the way you dress. And if you dress, if your main clients are corporate, then you want to dress in a way that's appropriate to them. But I met this photographer, Jen. She's lively and funky and everything. And when I looked at her picture on LinkedIn, it was all sort of like black. And I went, well, that doesn't seem like you. And she went, no, doesn't, does it? I wonder why I do that. And it's almost like this hangover. When I was in the corporate environment, you need to dress to fit in and show that you're part of their brand. But actually, if you work for yourself, you can stand out because the way you dress and the way you look is a brand, and it's helpful to have some consistency, maybe a consistency in a colour that is in your business card as well. So if you've got turquoise in your business card, maybe always having something that's turquoise. I'm not talking turquoise lipstick necessarily, but you know, something that kind of gives you this consistency of brand recognition. So it may be that you worry about standing out and being different. Well, everybody else does it like this, so maybe this is how I should answer this question. There's a group called 4N in the UK, and their recommendation is you start your 40 seconds with your name and your name of your business, and then you finish with your name and your business. Now, if everybody else is doing it, it's easy to stand out because the first thing is you don't do that. You start with something else. But do you worry about standing out and being different? Because if you're not standing out and being different, then you're not being memorable and you're being forgettable, which is not going to help your business. And business cards, quite bland, a lot of them. There's a printer that I network with, and she has collected over the years something like 16 of these cards that are almost identical because it's a stock design off a stock website. So how can you stand out? One of the things we talked about in How to Be Unforgettable, the webinar that I did, is about telling stories. Your stories of your clients are unique. Are unique. Job titles rarely are. So it's more interesting to tell a story. It's easy to remember because you work with that client, and it will help you stand out. If you've got a job or a job title where other people have a similar role, so a printer or something like that, then it's about expressing what makes you different, because otherwise you're just generally marketing your job titles. What you want to do is make yourself stand out. So even if you do something that other people do, you need to be different from them. Otherwise they might go, yes, definitely I need someone in marketing, and then they flick through the yellow pages to find someone else. And one of the things I'm going to talk about in my 3 secrets is using props instead of business cards. So those are the 7.5 ways that you weird people out. I wonder if you're doing any of them. Let me know if you are. Or I'm sure you will have noticed some of these yourselves. Which are the ones that really bug you? Let me know after the webinar's finished. So now, most of you will have heard of this holy triad of networking. And it's a sort of 3-way thing, and it's this. Know, like, and trust. So it's kind of you build your relationship from know you, like you, and trust you, and that gives you referrals. How many people have heard of that? Yeah? Well, there's something, for me, it's not that this is wrong, but it is missing something, and it's missing a major part. And it's this bit. Because lots of people may know, like, and trust you, but they have to be able to talk about what it is you do and what makes you different if you are going to get a quality referral from them. So my dad worked for years as a contracts engineer. Did I know him, like, and trusting? Yes. Could I tell anyone what he did? No. So there are lots of people who are friends who may know, like, and trust you, but actually unless they can talk with confidence and eloquence about what it is you do and what makes you different, then they are not really part of this network. They are not really part of your network. So this is a key point. Get this bit is really important, and this bit almost needs to come first before you go out meeting lots of people, because it's amazing how many people I meet who go networking and told loads of people about what they do, and when I listen to them I still think I haven't got a clue. I really don't know what it is you do. You know, and there are people I've met for months, years even. There's a woman I meet, she's asked me to connect on LinkedIn actually, and I thought, I've met you loads of times, because she's quite different in the way that she looks and dresses and speaks, but I've still no idea what she does. So I'm not part of her network. So the know, like, and trust is about remembering, but it's also about what they say about you. What do people say, and are they confident in talking about you? So the 3 ways to shine. Ding! And it's not just about blinging out. Okay, so do your homework. Step 1, do your homework. And I think this is things that it's something I definitely did not do and have only recently started to do. And this made a huge difference to me. Do your network. Who is going to be there at the group you're going to go to? And there are 3 different styles of groups, and they're demonstrated by these pretty circles. So there are these sort of networks. Option 1 is an everyone network. So this is a generic, it might be, well, when I say everyone, clearly it's not everyone from babies to pensioners and everywhere in between, but a kind of generic network. So it'll be anyone in business in your area may attend this network. They tend not to, because only certain types of businesses attend, but there's kind of like an everyone network. There's option 2, which are people who work closely with your diamond clients. So they are people who regularly come into contact with the perfect clients for you. And there is option 3, which are your diamond clients. So these tend to be much more specific, bespoke networking groups. So it might be a group of lawyers who get together. It might be a group of construction. So they tend to be job or industry specific networks. They tend to be more expensive to get into, maybe. They might meet less frequently, but they could be a really valuable group for you to talk to. And one of the things to do is to know what results you get from each of these different groups, and what groups might fall for you into option 2. So here's Lisa. She's a personal tax consultant. So she doesn't do VAT, she does personal taxation. And she has an option to go to an everyone group. So she goes to generic networking groups like Ladies for Networking, or ladies networking groups, or gents networking groups, or mixed networking groups. And she may get clients from that, people who don't need help with their taxation, have got their first letter for a self-assessment through, new to business, something like that. That could be a useful group for her. And one of the things she would need to do is to over a period of time, assess how many clients she gets from that group, and what the cost benefit is, and how many times does she need to go before she gets a client, and that sort of thing. But she also shared with me that she has one financial advisor who knows her very well, and she gets about a client every other month or 6 clients a year from that financial advisor. So it may be more profitable for Lisa to go to networking groups where there are financial advisors and build that referral network up. So what she needs is financial advisors who do not do personal taxation, so she can fit in. They can appear to offer another service because they reference someone they know and trust, and she might refer business back. So if there's something about VAT that she's dealing with a client that she doesn't do, she can refer business back. So there's a mutual benefit there. And it may be quicker and more cost effective for her to network to that group than to generic groups, and that's something that you need to find out. So you need to measure. Networking is like everything in business. You need to measure your results, and I never did this, and it was only when I started putting these slides together and I thought, how much money did I waste going to networking when it wasn't working, when I could have just been more profitable and kept the money for myself. So it's really important that you measure everything you do. So one of the things you might have is a little spreadsheet, which is, this is a group I went to, so this might be for Wren Wakefield. This is how much time and money it cost me. So there's a cost to attending, as in how much it cost you to go, and how much time did it take me to get there, go, network and come back. How many people were there? How many people were present? How many people did I actually meet and have a decent conversation with? What were the results and what is the impact on sales? And this is the sort of information that's gold dust to you, because you can work out that some groups, even though it seems like they should be just as good as others, for some reason don't work quite the same way. Now, the sort of results you might be measuring could include links on social media, providing you can demonstrate that there's some sort of connection there, that having more Facebook likes gets more people into your business. Website subscribers, same thing again, because ultimately the bottom line for all of these results is cash into your business. Sales leads, follow-up meetings and referrals generated, strategy sessions with potential clients or new members to your diamond network. So this diamond network is your bespoke network of people who love you and you have a mutually beneficial relationship with, which might be a joint venture or referral partnership. So this is the sort of thing that's really useful to have as part of your homework, is to try things out and take off the ones that aren't working so you can save time and energy. Because whether it's networking or any other form of marketing or expenditure in your business, you know, people will go, I need a new website. Well, how many clients actually come into you from your website? But with networking or any other investment, what time and money do you spend, and what money does it generate, and is there a lag in that? So another thing you can measure, which I did recently, was looking at your clients. And the key columns here are the client, and it may be how much they spent with you and what they bought. And where did they come from? Do you know where all your clients come from? It's amazing how many of my clients go, well, I don't know, he just rang me up. Where did he come from? How did he know to ring you up? Was he a referral? Was he off the internet? You know, if you look in big magazines, they'll say, quote this code when you ring in. It's because they're doing this analysis. Now, I did it recently for 5 people who attended a workshop I ran. This was a one-day workshop, How to Be Unforgettable Live, and I looked at where they all came from. And I was surprised that most of them weren't subscribers. These were not people with whom I had had a long relationship. These are people who saw me, mostly it was speaking. They saw me speaking, or they saw me speaking at a networking event, and that's what triggered the spend. So I've got this for VIP clients as well. I've got this for all the different products and services. This is one particular thing, but it clearly says to me that this is the right marketing strategy for this particular product or service of mine. Now, do you have that for your products and services? Do you know which strategy draws people into which products and services? Because this is really useful information if you want to get the most out of networking. So, this is Debs. She came on that workshop, and we were talking about being clear about diamond clients, which clients are going to be the most profitable and which ones are easiest to find. Now, her and her husband are structural engineers, and they worked on the Beijing Olympic Stadium. Now, that's quite a niche market, but a massive contract. So you only need a few of those in your working career, and you're pretty well set up. But when you're networking, it's kind of difficult to find people who might know about an Olympic stadium being built because they're fairly rare. Now, one of the things she talked about was working with property developers, and she only needed 2 more property developers that they link with in their business for it to be fine. That's what she was looking for. And we started looking at what made them different and what made them unique, and kind of honed it down into this idea of looking at people doing mill conversions. And could they be known for mill conversions? And it's not that they will only ever do that. They'd still take an Olympic Stadium if it came along. Now, the minute we got this clear about she was looking for property developers who were doing maybe mill conversions, somebody in the group, and there was only 6 of us there, said, oh, a friend of mine went on a course in London, paid £26,000 to go to a property development course. Immediately, the clearer you can get, this is the benefit of being really clear about your niche and what makes you different and who you're looking for, is somebody went, oh, and they created a link. Now, you know when you're getting clear about what it is you do when these links start happening, because you don't need a huge number of people in a room, and if somebody in that room doesn't go, oh, I know someone who, or this might be an interesting link, they can't come up with ideas of ways that you can market your business and people who might want to work with you, then somehow you're not getting it across in a way that's really helping people. So which would be better in terms of, if she wants property developers wanted to do mill conversions, is she better going to generic sort of ladies for networking or or is she better to go and pay £26,000 to attend one of those courses and get her clients in, or to sponsor the course, or to find a way of connecting with people who've been on the course? And this is all part of your marketing measuring. So that's about measuring, and that's all very statistical and everything. This is about bringing what you do to life, so using props. And this is a step called remarkable resources. So business cards. How many people have got this in their desk? A box full of business cards that, yes, you've met all these people, but can you remember what they do? It's amazing how quickly you forget what people do when you meet a lot of people. And the business cards are kind of, and I know I said they're essential, they're de rigueur if you're going to go marketing, if you're going to go to networking events, but you know, they're kind of predictable, aren't they? They're predictable. You hand over a business card, everyone goes, yeah, that's lovely, and puts it in the drawer and never sees it again. Now, this is something that I saw, and it wasn't at a networking event, but it astounds me that in the 10 years I've been networking, I've never seen this, because I should have seen it before. This lump is what a pound of human fat looks like. A pound of human fat. Now, I've met lots of nutritionists, dietitians, personal trainers, people who help you lose weight. In fact, just before Christmas, every networking group I seem to go to is crammed with them, all offering you their From January Start Date program. Now, these things aren't cheap. I think it costs about £50 to get one of those pounds of human fat. But can you imagine the impact if you were at a networking event, you're a personal trainer or a nutritionist or a diet something, and you held this up and you said, if you work with me, I guarantee you will lose this in the next 2 weeks. If you handed that around in your 60 seconds instead of a business card, how much more memorable would you be? Now, interestingly enough, I was going to use something in this presentation that I believe one of our attendees used, which is the Kaplunk funnel, but it was actually used during speaking rather than networking, but it could be used as well. And if you want to know more about the Kaplunk funnel, it's on my blog. So what can you do that can bring your topic to life that's different? Now, if you want a great book about it, this is my favourite book that I've read about marketing ever, and it's called OMG, or Observational Marketing Greats by Jeff Ram. And this is a huge, it is a plug, because for me it made a real difference to my marketing. So because I'm the Queen of Diamonds, I help people find their diamond. I bought some little glass diamonds, and I give them away when I'm networking. Now, people have actually gone, oh, I gave that to my daughter, can I have another one? Or I'd really like one to give to my son, or I'd really like one to have on my desk and have another one. Now, people never did that with my business card. In fact, I went and I did a talk at a networking event. It was just 10 minutes on using stories when you're networking. And I said anyone who told a story when I was listening to them explain their business could get one of these little glass diamonds. Now, one lady came up to me afterwards and she went, I didn't tell you a story, but I've told one to every other group. Please, can I have one? Now, has anyone ever come up to you and gone, I didn't get one of your cards, please, can I have one? With that kind of yearning. And people go, I've still got it. It's in my pocket. I see it every day. Now that has been much more powerful than any business card, however expensive, however brilliantly designed they were. So step 3, finishing off. So you do your homework, you know who you're talking to, you pick the story that suits that market. Step 2 is you bring something different. You bring a prop, you do something to stand out. And step 3 is what happens afterwards. You follow up. In 10 years of networking, I reckon 99.9% of people who've said, let's stop for a coffee, let's go out for a coffee, didn't follow up. At best, maybe 10% of the people I meet connect with me on LinkedIn. At best. And then I met this guy, and I met him recently, and his name's Jonathan Jacobs, and he's a photographer. And I said I was quite interested in getting some photographs for my website. And he said, well, let's meet up and discuss. And I went, yeah, thinking I would not hear from him again because that's what 99.9% of the people did. And he rang me up 2 days later. He said, when should we meet? And we booked a coffee. And in the end, I cancelled it because something pretty major was going on in my life. But he is by far the best follow-upper I've ever met. He is courteous and kind. He makes it easy for me to buy from him. Because do I want photographs? Yes. I want photographs. Whether I want them right now or not, he is by far the most professional follow-upper I've ever met. He makes it easy for me to want to work with him because he makes it easy for me to contact him. He makes it easy for me to buy from him. And ultimately, if you know somebody has a problem and you can solve it, make it easy for them. So, 7.5 ways to weird people out and 3 steps to shine, as well as some other ideas put in there. So 5 steps to wow. This is the 5 steps to getting a wow, because that big turquoise circle in the know, like, and trust that is missing is people understanding what it is you do in a simple way. So there's 5 steps: story, pick your diamond, ask questions, remarkable resources. We've talked about remarkable resources today and know the flow. It's all contained in the free book that's on my website. So final story is about Joanne Bradley, and she won a competition I ran, and she was just a bookkeeper. So she was stuck with this title thing. She was definitely stuck with this title thing. She dreaded networking because she thought everyone thought bookkeeping was boring. She felt that everyone glazed over. So she was getting into this ninja thing. She didn't really want to go, and she didn't want to stand out, and she didn't know how to talk about what she did, so she waffled a bit. And I did some work with her. It didn't take very long, but we did it over the phone. Took one long conversation, and I went in through the storyline, and I went in, and we changed one word, and she went from being a bookkeeper to a bookkeeping detective. And it just changed the spin about how she thought about what it was she did, about the value she gave. She started talking about herself with more confidence, and honestly, she's given me the best testimonial. It's on my LinkedIn page. But she said she really wanted to start blogging, and now she could, because every single client was kind of like a detective story whilst she searches for the profit in your business. So it's not just about doing your books. What she wants to be is partner with you so that she can go, look at these figures every month. You should be doing more of this and less of this. So she wants you to be more profitable, and she uses the figures to help you steer the business. So she's there as a partner almost in your business. She said she found it easy to laugh about what she did and to play. She found it easy to stand out because nobody else was calling themselves that. She gained confidence. She raised her prices actually because she went, you know what, I'm not just a bookkeeper. This is what I do. This is the added value. She decided that she wouldn't take any more clients who just turned up with a bag of receipts. She realised she was vastly underselling her services. Very first time she went out there and said she was a bookkeeping client, new client. Bookkeeping detective, she got a new client. And this client was someone who already had a bookkeeper but was looking for that added extra, was looking for someone who would be more of a partner with them. And she explained it so easily and perfectly that they connected straight away. So all of this stuff really works if you get it right. If you're not getting the results you want to get when you're networking, then think about some of the mistakes that you might be making, the way you might be weirding people out, the way you may not have thought about the 3 different types of networks and the different stories you need to tell. If you're telling a story to a very bespoke group of people who know your industry in and out, you can use jargon, you can make it much more detailed than you would if you're telling it to generic people. So think about these elements, pull it all together, stories, remarkable resources, asking questions, knowing what your diamond is, what makes you different. What makes Joanne different now is that she's got this detective element. She's searching for the profit in your business. So all of this stuff, when it pulls together, can totally transform the impact that you get from networking. Most of my clients now come from people I've met, either networking or speaking. In 10 years, I had one. So I know this works. So that's it. If you haven't already, go to the website nakedpresenting.co.uk and download the How to Get a Wow when you're asked what do you do. I will also send out a copy of this recording. And I may just have a freebie in there for you as well, so which will be a book of the 7.5 steps, the 7.5 ways to weird people out. I may do. So I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've got any questions, put them in the question box and I will get to them later. Thank you very much for attending. I'm going to stop the recording. I'm going to open the mics up, and if people have got specific questions, we can listen to them now. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording now.